course. Hey, congratulations for Marionette.
Thank you.
So let's start off with the easy question. Where did the original idea came from for your movie Marionette?
I don't quite remember because it's such a long time ago. I've made the short in '93, but it was originally an idea for a comic book I think in 1987. So it goes back a long way. But then it was just before film school. I drew comic books at the time, short stories, and I was accepted at film school, and I did film school. And during film school, I developed the story, and I found out what it was really about. That it's a story about God and a reflection of my religious upbringing. So so I turned it into my graduation film in the end, 4 years later, and it was 5 years later. And I started to understand that it was really a story about fate and free will, and that was the short version. And
so
then,
go ahead.
No. And then, at the time it was a short film, and I knew I had to turn it into a feature-length film one day because, the story felt a bit rushed in the short, and these are such deep questions, what it is really about, then you need to do that in a feature. So this is what I started to do, and was picked up in 2004 by a producer in the UK, and then it got stuck there for a while. I had to negotiate for 3 years to get it back. So in 2010 to 2012, while I was making another film, I could finish the last development. And then from early 2012 on, we started the financing, and that was quite a bumpy road as well. But that's another story.
Well, tell us this: how different is your feature film from your short film that was long ago?
It's sort of the same in the sense that it has the same high concept idea of a boy who can create the future of the psychiatrist. At the time, it had a male protagonist, so I flipped the gender later on, like in 2014 even. So the short film had no flashbacks, the past events were not there, and also the third act was completely not there, the third act of the feature film. Mm-hmm. So like I said, it was more like a rough diamond. It was a great idea, but felt a bit rushed, so I had to do it again, to do it good this time, to do it well this time.
Now, your film is the setting is based in Scotland as a backdrop. Tell us about why you made that decision to use Scotland as a setting, and how you use like the buildings and rooms to develop the moods for your film.
Yeah, well, originally it was a financing reason, why we chose Scotland. I think there were substantial grants at the time from Scottish Screen. So, but slowly or soon I started to find out that it was actually crucial to the story. The more I visited Scotland, the more I found out, this violent Scottish landscape, and the dark stormy weather, the rain and dark clouds and the high cliffs. It's such a violent landscape. It shows the forces of nature, and it was really connected with the theme of the story. So that was also my concept of the film. So here in Scotland, life is intense and harsh, and there's the world of suffering. And we had this painting of Caspar David Friedrich, Romanticism, from the Romantic period. And Der Wanderer über dem Nebelmeer was a painting, man against nature. That was an inspiration. And, it's unbelievable when you see that most of the interiors we had were built. Mm-hmm. And we had great examples we had found there in Scotland. There used to be many mental hospitals in Scotland because of the Great War, you know, World War One. Most of these buildings, you know, are run down and abandoned, and you cannot shoot there anymore. But of course, they were great examples for what we needed to build. So, and in contrast in the film, I also have this other part that is set in the US that I used in the complete contrast with the harsh and the forces of nature, with the suffering. It was more like paradise with pastel colors and modern architecture. Life is in control and convenient here. So that was the idea of the two worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, you could totally sense that in your film. Now, obviously, stormy conditions, like you mentioned, were relevant throughout many scenes. What was there difficulty on, you know, trying to have your production seek out these storms, or did you have to rely on CGI?
No, some of it is CGI. So there was like the big waves that are breaking on the rocks, you know. But most of it was created. We had to be smart or clever. We had to be clever. But you know, like the moored boats that were bobbing like toys in a bath. That was the biggest challenge, you know. We decided to use a boat going in circles right before action, making big waves, and then it worked out perfectly, you know. So that was a big trick, and I showed the film to a fellow filmmaker who was also who is also who has a sailing boat. And he was like, "Oh, there you go. It's a disgrace. These harbors, you pay money, a lot of money to moor there and be protected from the sea. And there you go." And I said, "Well, we created it ourselves." He went like, "What? Well done, man." So that was great. And yeah, so that worked really well. But there was a big challenge shooting in the harbor, actually, because there was a difference in tide of like 20 feet. So no water at all at certain points, you know, so and we had only 4 days to shoot everything in the harbor. So it was quite a challenge in terms of the schedule. So
Absolutely, these things are always a challenge in anyone's production, and you did it well.
yeah, thanks.
Now tell us about Thekla and Elijah. Why were they perfect for the roles, and why did you choose them?
I mean, yeah, I had to find a psychiatrist or an actress who is credible as a psychiatrist, and also who we could relate to throughout the entire story, even when she goes through these extremes, you know. So, and I mean, Thekla has both, you know. She's very sympathetic and very smart. So and she's a very good actress, and it was lovely to work with her. And on top of that, she had a Catholic upbringing herself, you know, so she could relate to the story very much. So that was also great. And I mean, for the boy, I think we scouted more than 160 boys in Scotland. And out of that, there were 3 candidates that were having, that could act really well. But they were not the right boy, you know, for the part. So we had to keep looking, and that was tough. And then we tested another 25 boys from London, out of London, and there he was, you know. Elijah immediately jumped out of the group, and he was like, yeah, he really fitted with the role. His angelic curly hair, his amazing disturbing gaze, it was incredible. So the most amazing thing was his self-tape. So when the film will be released on DVD, I think it will probably be an extra, but it was an incredible performance. It was so intense and really, really scary. So that was quite impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, throughout the entire movie, you have to tell me about these art pieces that the child actually drew out. How you actually recreated it, and what is the importance of the pig as the centerpiece for these art pieces?
I was. I knew that this question would come one day. You're the first one, actually. No, I mean for the drawings, the choice of the drawings. I mean, they had to reflect the inner trauma and anger of the boy. And we had an artist who created these drawings, and we talked a lot about it, and he had to relearn to drawing childish, and in the wrong perspective, and he learned. So we came up with these black pencil drawings, no color, only some red, with a lot of scratching. And Jan, the artist, learned Elijah how to handle his pencil, and he drew most of all the. So Jan, the artist, drew all the drawings, but only left open a few parts, and then Elijah could finish them. So that worked really well. The pig, yes, well, it's just one of the animals. Start to laugh. It's just one of the animals Manny's drawing in the beginning, and Marianne in her arrogance thinks that it represents the boy, but later on she finds out it's about her, that she's the pig. So you shouldn't search too much meaning behind it, although she does mention that she's rather a pig in shit or a vegetable than some kind of marionette in a sadist fantasy. So that's how we put it in the story.
Most excellent. Well, Elbert, let me start wrapping things up. You have a future project ahead of you after Marionette?
Yes. Well, we have a few. I have a few projects, great projects in an advanced stage of development and early financing. One of them is a political paranoia thriller about how technology is changing our reality and identity. It's a bit in the vein of Mr. Robot, also a bit lynchy and mindfuck film. Another one is called Goodbye, Mr. Lebedev, a neo-noir crime thriller. With elements of espionage and black comedy. It's Dutch and Russian spoken, but I really look forward to that film. It's a great thriller. And then I have another one on my table, but that will come a bit later, I assume. A futuristic thriller called Out of Mind about transhumanism and the value of the self, if it exists at all, of course. So that's another story. But yeah, I have a lot of projects going on, and there's even more, but that's all in early stage. So
you sound very, very busy. One thing before I let you go is your short film was done a long time ago, and now you've done your feature film. For you, has your views on God changed since your short film to the feature film?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, I had to make a film about these questions because I think it was kind of an obsession for me to understand how it all works. How do we have a free will? Are things laid out in front before us? And what is your part? What is exactly your part? And I think I found an answer on that with my film Marionette, and I've come full circle with it. So and it's in the film, so that's for people to find. But yeah, so it's my way of working through these questions. And at the time, it was more like a reckoning with my religious upbringing, and dismissing stuff. And I think later on, I have a more, a better view on everything, how it is all related. And yeah, so it has changed, yes, but I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. Although, in moments of despair, yeah, like this bumpy road of financing with this film, that was quite something. And that, at a certain point of, you start to think, maybe he's still out there preventing to that I can make my film. You want to make a film about God, it's never going to happen. But we did, so it's a triumph of free will, and it was a real hero's journey. So
Well, most excellent, Albert. You certainly made a movie with a message, and that's why people should watch this film.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, and everyone should check out Marionette. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good luck.